I am alarmed at how easy it was to get on this thing. As long as I keep my mouth shut, no one will ever know. I can't wait to get a look at this moon. Wow. Hey, watch out, dude. There's no AAA up here. I don't want you popping my spaceship before we get there. I guess it really does look like cheese. The dark side. Let's get a good look. No way, are you?
And just like that, we are back with chapter 105 of the universe according to Mugsy. Today is Friday, April 10th, 2026. I am Mugsy the Creator, the interdimensional time traveling waiter, back from the past and the very distant future, here for one moment, the now, the only time that exists, so that we may examine the current events that are playing out before your very eyes, how they are a product of the culture, and how your only contribution to it is your own individual consciousness. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and that is the magic that you are going to have to pay attention to if you want to keep up with us this week of the universe according to Mugsy. It is so great to be back, grounded with my feet on planet Earth. I took a trip around the dark side there this offseason. I do feel like a ball player taking the whole offseason off and then coming back in again this April, working through October, and then boom, another offseason. It's kind of weird when you get into and out of the swing of things. You're not exactly sure if you're going to be able to pick it back up. You're a whole different person after that offseason. You stepped out into the darkness. You came back. You might have gone on a vacation that you didn't tell anybody about. You might have been hanging out with some different people that you don't usually hang out with, and now you got to come back to what you were last year, which is a person that doesn't even exist. That person's gone. And you got to see if you could do this again. That's why we have the spring training. And I was lucky enough to pick up a few shifts in March. That's where we met my girl, Ashley. You know her from Daisy Floral. We had her here on the podcast. That was my March spring training, running around the restaurants for a few shifts, making sure that I remember where the Diet Coke is, where the ranch is, getting to know Juan, my new chef, who has stepped into this season at the Village Tavern. We got Tim promoted. We talked about all the changes last week. There's so much going on, and I think that I did the best job that I could possibly do. I was stretching, I was working out, I was adding in ab exercises and focusing on that core. I was on the bike. I was doing yoga, I was doing Tai Chi, I was running 3 to 5 miles every day, every other day. I did everything I could to stay in shape this offseason so that when I step back out there onto the Village Tavern patio, that I would be able to step into the same form that I was in, championship caliber form from last October. You guys know how we do things. Oh, and it felt so good on Friday night and Saturday day running around that place. I thought that I was back into form, just like riding a bike, just fitting like a glove, back into the swing of things. Or so I thought. We made it through those first 2 days with no hiccups, but they asked me to come and do an Easter brunch, which I had no problem with. It's not my normal go-to. Honestly, it's a little bit in my past. I've been in this restaurant industry game since 2004. I've been working Easter brunches, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas Eve, anything, Earth Day, Arbor Day, birthday parties, birthday showers, weddings, everything you can think of, I have worked. So I understand that there's a different flow to the different events that may be in there. That was a dance floor for college kids that were out there shaking their bottoms. Not but 6 to 7 hours just before that. We have barely cleaned up the floor, so the energy is weird. Like I said, this isn't my first rodeo. This isn't the first time I've walked into an Easter brunch. And I walked in and I came in and I was like, this one's gonna be different. I don't know why, but it is. And 20 years in the game, you can just tell. You can always just tell when the energy's just a little bit off. So chalk it up to it is what it is. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. If things happen, things happen. We're gonna make it through this day. I promise you. And that's exactly what happened. But you see, first, I got an opportunity to wait on the owners of the whole goddamn restaurant, the same people I have been begging to come on my podcast time in and time out. I have been doing my best to make sure that I display myself as is running around, never sitting down, never taking time off, always putting my energy on what needs to be done next or taking care of these customers. I even got up. We had to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 6 o'clock. I did my stretching. I did my Tai Chi to make sure that I was mentally prepared for the day that was about to take place, but I could not be prepared for them to be down 40% reservations. So everything was going to be a lot slower than what I was used to just on that Friday and that Saturday. When I come in, I got to be running around. I got to be moving. I can't be standing in one place. When you're standing in one place, that's when people start yelling at you about doing things wrong. When you're moving around, doing stuff, getting things done, that's when the engine is running. I'm listening for that bell. I'm listening for people that need things. And that was what I was trying to focus on. I should have been paying more attention to the owners of the restaurant who were sitting right there at my table at a buffet. It was my fault when they say to me, hey, these plates have been on the table for too long. Where were you? We needed you here to pick up the plates. All I can say to that is, I'm sorry. I'm here now. What can I get out of your way? Does anybody need anything? That is the only thing that you can do, especially when you understand the energy of the day is off and it's awkward and it's weird. Now, if anybody asks me why it was I wasn't staring at the one table that I had, because as our reservations are down, I only have one table in my lounge. I got 4 tables that I could have people seated at. All right, guys, I was hoping we didn't get to this part of the podcast, but the reason this isn't any bigger is because I am on the run, and right now I need financial support. In order to keep this broadcast going, I need your financial support right now. So if you could please go to patreon.com/MugsyTheCreator, sign up, $3, $6, or $9 a month, whatever you can do to support me, whatever you can do to get me out of this mess. But we only have 8 reservations coming in during the first hour, 5 in the next half hour, and then things are going to start picking up. So how long can you stare at one specific group of people, especially group of people you work for? I don't know. Maybe it was a little awkward. Maybe I was a little off. Maybe I was a little weird. I apologize, guys. I appreciate my job at the Village Tavern, and I appreciate the Ingemi family being so hospitable to the universe according to Mugsy, Industry Night, and every other crazy idea that I come up with. So I promise I'm going to do a better job out there next time I get the chance to run around, whether it's inside, outside, on that patio. But I do want you to know, I want to be good. I'm trying to learn from other people around me. I don't know many people that have been in the game 20 years. Still trying to learn from Kayla and how I could maybe push a better sale, or still trying to learn from Jaden, how she manipulates that conversation with those customers so well and makes it feel like, oh, she's just their best friend. There's people that are so good at this. The way that Kristen falls into that place, because she is so comfortable in an uncomfortable, constantly changing environment, it's absolutely insane. There are better waitresses out there than me, even on this squad, and I'm trying my best to learn from them. I'm trying to come in as prepared as I can for the day, as flexible as I need to be for whatever's going to show up. The issue is I need my whole team showing up with me here. I used to be the operations manager of a commercial portfolio worth $2.5 billion at a little bank up the street. That means I need to intimately know all of the operations and ongoings that are going on. I need to know where everybody is and what they're supposed to be doing, what has to be done, and what is just a little fluff that we like around the sides. Just like at that Easter brunch, the flowers on the table were absolutely impeccable. I don't think I've ever seen flowers open up on a timeline that perfectly. I don't know if that was the boss's wife. I don't know if that was the general manager. I don't know if that was the florist that's now running around as a waiter, but whose ever idea that was absolutely perfect. Chef also had a great idea. He was like, I'm not going to bring out all the food that I have to serve this entire buffet during the first hour because we only have 8 reservations and then we have 5 coming in the next half hour. I'm not going to let all the food sit out here and get cold. I'm only going to bring it out in small portions so that it stays warm and everybody gets to enjoy a nice, warm Easter meal, even though we're down a few people. That is a great, solid idea. That's Chef being flexible. Problem was, Chef didn't get flexible enough with who's going to carry the food back and forth, because if you're only going to bring out 3 cupcakes at a time for each person to have their choice as they walk into the buffet, you're going to need someone going back and getting 3 cupcakes at a time, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So while I was not standing at the table, I was doing what I've done so many other times, working from 2004 to now, 2026, in restaurants during these buffets. When I used to work in the dish room, they would hire me to come out there and do nothing but bring food back and forth, because when you're running a buffet line, that is something that happens. You need things back and forth. Oh, we're out of spoons. Oh, we need a few more plates. Oh, they got questions about what's in this or that or this. We need more prime rib. Oh, we got to get some more ham. They need a little more stuff on the omelet line. It's just back and forth. Maybe the chef needs to go to the bathroom and we need people standing there to switch out with him. Those are all things that you need thinking operationally going on before we get into the middle of the Easter brunch. So I do feel bad that I was not the best waiter, that I absolutely could have been on Easter morning for the people that I would like to impress most inside that restaurant. Well, that's actually not true. I care about the customers. You were a customer at that time, so that classifies you as someone I would like to impress. Other than that, I don't care. But yeah, I should have been on my game a little bit more, but maybe I could have been on my game a little bit more if I wasn't running back and forth trying to get coffee for the other people that had tables and this, that, and the other thing for the chef and all the other guys. Hey, what did I say? I owned it, right? That's all you can do is own it in the moment. I'm just saying, maybe for Mother's Day, you guys want to rethink some of the operation and how it runs. I don't know. That's not my department. I'm just the food getter guy. You need ranch, Diet Coke, or a mimosa? I will go get those things. I will take those plates out of the way, and I will take them out of the way a little bit faster next time. There's so much going on, guys. I wanted to have a little discussion. That's the private world that I work in. When I choose to work inside someone's organization, and I take a paycheck from them, even if it is a small paycheck and most of my money comes from tips, I agree to kind of play by their rules a little bit, and what they say goes. And that is something that we're going to have to pay really close attention to, because the magic that has gone on in this world is behind the scenes dark magic that you're not going to get a taste of until you actually step in it. And that's what I want you to be able to see now, is be careful where you're walking, especially in these here United States of America. I didn't know at first that if you had enough money that the rules didn't really apply to you. And what I'm talking about here is people like Disney World. Did you guys know that at Walt Disney World, they had their own kind of tax code? They were in charge of their own property, and they didn't fall under all the same jurisdictions as all the other property inside Florida did. I didn't really know that. But during 2020 in the last election, it kind of came out. There was some J.D. Vance stuff going around, and with Governor, whatever his name was, DeSantis down there running for president, there were a lot of political moves being made. And in the fray, I caught up on, oh, wow, there were a lot more places inside the United States that actually don't fall under what I would have categorized as regular federal jurisdiction. Kurt Metzger was the one that turned me on to, yeah, you need to pay attention to these special areas that are census jurisdiction areas, because a lot of creepy things go on in those areas. We're not going to get into what those creepy things are. But regardless, if you have enough money or enough control, you are able to carve out a little section of land where you get to be the king, the dictator. And as long as you can continue to pay off the powers that be, that is a right that will be allowed to happen. And what am I talking about? Where are you leading us down here? I said, guys, magic. You got to pay attention to the magic that's going on. What magic is taking over the world right now is that artificial intelligence. You guys understand it as ChatGPT or Grok or any of the other applications that you're interacting with. Maybe you see it at your job, where it's so clear that they are going to try and fire you so soon and have a computer do your job. Well, these computers run off energy. Right now, we're training these computer algorithms each time we interact with them, so they are getting a little bit better and a little bit better. But the energy that is required to run these massive computers takes up, so much more energy than the average individual uses. In fact, what they've done is, and who is they? Lex Wexner and a private equity group that the Vice President of the United States is invested in. And the new person that's running for governor of Ohio, you know him as Vivek Ramaswamy. There's a whole group of people that are invested in creating a public-private partnership that is going to be inside the state of Ohio, where most of these data centers are going to be run. I'm sure there's going to be pockets all across the country, not only in Ohio, but Texas. Maybe they're trying in other parts of the country as well that I don't know about yet, that are going to be running all of this. There are going to be energy draws that are going to be like sucking all the energy from anyone who would be seeking to utilize it for any other purposes, so that we can run these artificial intelligence algorithms, large language learning models or something like that, so that they can do your job at Geico. And we don't have to worry about paying you $45,000 a year to adjust that claim. We're just going to straight up deny it for that customer who shouldn't be owning a car anyways. We're going to push them into leasing, and you will owe nothing and you will be happy. That was my friend Klaus Schwab. Do you remember Klaus Schwab? He was the chairperson of the World Economic Forum, who bills itself as the premier world organization for the public-private partnership. And I want to thank Whitney Webb for doing such an unbelievable job researching that public-private partnership. That is where I got a ton of my information, and Whitney has been talking about it on the Jimmy Dore program. Unbelievable interview. You should check out her on the Jimmy Dore program. Check out her on her website, Unlimited Hangout. I'll tag all the descriptions. Whitney's one of the best researchers in the entire world. In fact, she's working from Chile, doing a lot of her research on the United States of America, which allows her a little more distance from the subject that she's covering. She has written 2 books on Jeffrey Epstein and all of his ties. They are unbelievable. One Nation Under Blackmail, Part 1 and 2. I encourage you guys to check those out. What I love about Whitney is when she's speaking, it's so clear that she has such a mastery over the subject that she's researched. She understands exactly where it was she's getting the information from. So if you are going to pull one over on her, you're going to have to do it with the source information being incorrect. She has such an ability to see through the bullshit that all the other independent journalists are spewing out there on the street, because she understands exactly what they're ignoring and how they are trying to manipulate the topics to be viewed in a certain light. It doesn't matter whether you're Taibbi, Schellenberger, Bari Weiss. Whitney Webb can see through the bottom of your bullshit just by the nature of the research that she's already done. It's truly incredible. I encourage you guys to check out her work. And we should drill into that public-private partnership and what it means for the public, like you and me, citizens of countries. Well, if you are to be from a place my girl Katina is from, Albania, you would know that they just switched over the entire government to AI system, an Albanian AI robot. And that is now who is in charge of the government. And that is something that you should be scared of in this country, because now there's no human to talk to. We talked about it last week on Instagram and Meta. They've switched over to these things, and they're kicking my friend Nicole Vernon off the internet because someone stole her stuff, and now there's no one she can talk to. There's no FBI, there's no CIA, there's no NSA that will get involved. Oh no. Private companies getting in the way because they're choosing to push artificial intelligence over human capital, which is you and I. They're getting rid of the cattle. That is us. And they're trying to move on to computers. But it's only going to happen if we continue to allow it. Now, Lex Wexner, that was a name that I said at the beginning of this. Why? How did he get all caught up in the middle of this Vivek Ramaswamy and the Vice President J.D. Vance and his private equity group that are investing in these private-public partnerships, which is essentially people with enough money to control land assets and have the laws written in their favor so that they can essentially work around the Constitution of the United States, any federal or state jurisdiction that should be in place. These are the people that are the Wizards of Oz behind the machine. They are making the world work for them, and they are doing it in your backyard. They are using your tax dollars. That's correct. Because these public-private partnerships are land grants that actually allow these corporations to raise taxes on the citizens that live inside their jurisdiction. You'll see citizens in Ohio reporting $600 and $700 electric bills despite no changes in their electricity use whatsoever. That's because of the data draw that's coming out of all of these data centers that are popping up because they're being recruited by corporations that have an inside track to a public-private partnership that allows them to draw taxes on the citizens to help pay for the infrastructure that will ultimately enslave them. This is not an exciting conversation that I wanted to have, guys. I'm excited to be running around my little prison inside the Village Tavern and saying hello to all the tourists that get to come to town. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot more prisons being created out there, and the idea that you have of the world and what you think it is, it's just not exactly it. You have to understand, like I do, that I'm a moron. I go on secret vacations to get perspective about the world, and sometimes I get out of this atmosphere in the type of views that I get. And I keep those things close to the chest because I don't want anybody knowing who I'm hanging out with because they might judge me, because sometimes my friends are seedy characters, all right? I don't know how to explain this to you. Why is it that you think you're entitled to anything? I don't understand why it is you think that we have to tell you anything inside the United States. If you wanted to know about it, why didn't you read about the public-private partnership? It was published, I'm sure. If you cared about the laws that were being implemented in your part of the world, why weren't you paying attention when they rewrote the laws to allow private corporations to come in and do stuff like that with the right incentives? This is the magic that's going on, guys. This is the magic that plays out right in front of your eyeballs. That's why you need to be paying attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. We need to start paying attention to the things that are going to start literally taking so much of our energy that seems like they're trying to get rid of us in many ways, guys. It seems like they're trying to get rid of us in many ways. I just don't know why you're so entitled. You think you're entitled to that plot of land that you're on? And electricity is so cheap, things can change in an absolute instant. In fact, that is the only constant, is change. Do you think you're entitled to some information just because we used your money to get there? You're not entitled to nothing. You are the cows. You are the cattle that is being led in directions and fed crap. Do you think they're going to show you the pictures of the dark side of the moon? Why would they do that? Why would they ever do that? Why do you get to know what's out there? Why? What use is that information to you, how physics works? Nuclear physics. You might have some smart idea and go blowing something up or getting in the way of all the power that's already existing in place. There are power structures here long before you got there, buddy. What makes you think in the United States or Canada or Australia or the Ukraine that you get to know what's going on the moon? No, that's reserved for people that are way higher than you. You don't even understand how physics works, all right? You still think gravity's a real thing when it's really electromagnetism in the ether, and there's so much more going on behind the scenes. You got to understand that information gets hidden from people like you on purpose. So unless you're working to get outside that box and work to look at the world from a different perspective, perhaps the perspective of your owner, the one that would look at you. Boy, I always remember Dave Chappelle talking about how he owns a town in Ohio. He owns the whole damn town, and it really pisses some white folks off. Oh, maybe Ohio's been a public-private partnership breeding ground for quite some time. And that really makes me look at Dave Chappelle and his relationship with the Washington, D.C. area much different. I wonder what happened when he went on his dark trip around the dark side, getting lost there for some time. Sticking it to the man in Comedy Central, going to Africa and getting lost for a decade before you were so warmly welcomed back to the same group of people that you were quick to run away from and call names. You're working with the same group right again. Isn't that funny? How you make it look like there's been so much change that has happened when really no change has happened at all. In order for things to stay the same, things have got to change to distract all of the people out there. That's the magic that's going on. I don't know why you think you get to know whether or not we went to the moon in 1969, 70, 71, or 72. Does nobody think it's weird that no one's talking about how we get through the Van Allen radiation belt? There's a reason even I say that. There's a reason that it's a talking point. There's a reason, and I don't know. I'm stupid. You got to understand, I'm stupid. I try and keep things close to the vest, and I end up wearing it right on my sleeve. It's so funny, all the things that I try to keep secret that people just end up finding out. That's why I've embraced authenticity. I am just going to be my own self, telling you everything that I know. I don't know why I know the things that I know about the Van Allen radiation belt. I don't know why I've seen so many videos on the internet of the NASA astronauts laughing at the fact that we went to the moon. I don't know why people keep telling me we lost the technology of how to get there. That doesn't make any sense. They're talking about how computers keep getting better. They want me to invest in AI. And now they're telling me, oh, but the computers in the 1960s were a lot better than the stuff we got now. How is any of this possible? I feel like someone's lying to me. I feel like the shadows on the moon. I feel like the flag not waving in the wind. I feel like there's just so many questions about all the weird things that all the astronauts said when they returned. I don't know what's going on with those guys. Did you put them under some sort of spell? Did you cast a dark magical spell on them? Or are they trying to cast a dark magical spell on us so that I believe you guys actually got to the moon? Maybe it is possible to get to the moon. Maybe I don't understand physics. Maybe Newtonian physics and the separation of energy and matter into two separate categories is actually something that we need to re-examine. Maybe a particle and a wave can be the same thing at the same time. That's like the quantum physics. Maybe that's the stuff that we should be paying attention to. Maybe, is there a way you can get a secret portal up there? Do you guys have wormholes? Do you guys have alien aircraft that you guys have been able to figure out? After all of the donations that have fallen all around the world, that you guys are flying around, picking up these aircrafts and flying them to secret bases, is there anything in the ocean? Do you guys have anything in the ocean? How come you guys changed the name from UFOs to UAPs? How come you're telling us Martians are real now? Which one of you guys are Martians? Are we all aliens? Is this not our home base? Is the moon a rocket ship that you guys actually live on? What, is it hollow? When the moon rung like a bell, is that because it's hollow? Is it made out of metal? What were all the things that hit the moon? I haven't seen any explosions on the moon. Is there a lot of stuff going on under there? I have so many questions that you guys aren't going to answer for me because I'm not entitled to that information. So the only thing that I can assume is you guys are lying and you're doing dark magic. The only reason I know that is because I've been following the dark magic you've been doing for so long. These public-private partnerships. Guys, this ain't my first moon launch. This ain't the first time they've used this program to try and distract us from all the things that are going on in the world. They did it so well. The first time in 1969, there was a lot of things going on in the world, and this was a perfect distraction in the Cold War, when information didn't travel so freely and the means of communication were much more controlled. Well, I don't even know if that's true. Perhaps they're just as controlled as they once were, but you could tell someone something, and they would just believe it. The power of the United States getting to the moon first, that scared a lot of people. They weren't sure if we were full of shit. But now we've lost about every single war that we've been in since then. And now the whole world's like, oh, okay, you went to the moon again? Sure, absolutely. Dark side of the moon, whatever. India just got to the moon too. They are beating us in Iran with balsa wood drones. I'm sure they're not telling you that on television. You gotta pay attention to the dark magic that's going on. Do you know any of the history of NASA? There was a guy. Operation Paperclip is something you guys should all be paying attention to. Operation Paperclip was a operation in the 50s and 60s after World War II. 40s, 50s, and 60s. What we did was we recruited some of the Nazi scientists into the most secretive programs inside the United States of America because they had secrets that we needed to use. There were actually a few Nazis that were dismissed at the Nuremberg trials. I want you to understand this. Because their excuse, their defense in the court of law in Nuremberg when they were being tried for war crimes was we were just copying the program that the United States of America already had in place. And they were acquitted with that as a defense. It is absolutely crazy when you start looking at history and you start to understand the things that have gone on. The Nazi scientists were brought over to the United States and installed inside of our programs. You might know the name Werner von Braun because he took over the NASA space program conveniently right before we went to the moon or did whatever it was dark magic that they did inside there. If the Nazis take over the most secretive organizations that do not move in and out of office every 4 years with the tides of Republican and Democrat. They are actually entrenched inside the systems that never change. I think what we did is we discovered that this country had been given over to the Nazis a long time ago. It wasn't just them. Those are just a couple that we know about. You guys might have heard of the name Dr. Josef Mengele, who was a Nazi scientist famous for horrifically recruiting people to the death camps and doing experiments on them. Well, you have to understand that that's all information that people inside the United States could use for some reason. I don't know exactly what. So why would you let that information go to waste? Instead, what you do is you smuggle that Mengele over into the United States. You have him working with a little Jolly West over there at the Haight-Ashbury Clinic in San Francisco, and they start working with people like Manson underneath the name Dr. Green. And you're going to start to see how all of these programs inside the United States, that MK Ultra and MK Monarch, are really just continuations of this program that Hitler may himself have birthed from the early mind control operations of the 1940s, which were a birth of World War I, when they realized human beings weren't going to kill each other. They were going to miss on purpose unless you were able to absolutely take over and program their mind. Guys, this is how the magic works. I told you were going to have to keep up. You thought we were talking about public-private partnerships when really we're talking about NASA, the space organization, and all the lies the United States of America has been telling, specifically with this one program for decades and decades and decades at this stage of the game. They want you to fall for it again, but it is all absolute magic. It is dark magic that's supposed to distract you from seeing the actual game that's going on, guys. Do not fall for it. I bet you aliens are coming next. I will not be surprised if they're telling you aliens are coming next. For all we know, you are the aliens and you are the technology capable of so much more. So what else do we want to talk about? I have been thinking, recurring, it just keeps coming up, how stupid I am and how dumb I used to be. I remember when I used to have to work so hard to open up my perspective to accept that things may be different than what I thought the game was, and recognize that if I am to make any progress in the directions and the movement that I want to make in my life, in my journey, that I'm going to have to accept things as I see them, understanding that there's no possible way for me to know everything. There's no possible way for me to not fall into traps, so it's important for me to learn how to get my way out of those traps. It was a hard ride for us millennials, and no one had it harder than us. My friend Jay, you know him as the Kidney Cowboy, reminds me from time to time, but there was an account on Twitter who I assume has to be a bot, Uzi, U-Z-I, crypto with 2 O's, that I am assuming is trying to make me depressed. And look at my life and how depressing it is that all these things are going on. You can't trust anybody, never mind the government and NASA and the television and the news. You can't trust any of those things. Because this has been the life of a millennial. Graduated into the Great Recession. Entry-level jobs require 3 years of experiences. Pensions, which were once prevalent inside the United States, were replaced by 401ks. Promoted at work meant a 2% raise and 200% more responsibility. When you felt stability, we got a pandemic, and the highest inflation in 50 years deleted any pay raises that you would have got over the course of your career. Home prices doubled overnight, forcing permanent renters. Child care costs 1 month of rent. Juggling aging parents, young kids, and burnout from work and the cost to live. AI causing mass layoffs during years of peak earnings. That is absolutely incredible. What I assume is that robot's trying to make me feel bad about myself and make me feel like, oh, wow, I really don't have an opportunity to do anything. Are you kidding me? We have an opportunity to be the most resilient generation in a long time. Those things would have crushed any one of the generations that came before us. We took them all on the chin and said, give me some more. You are never going to get me to feel bad about not having stuff inside this life, because the things that I care about are experiences. That is what I'm focused on. That's what I hope that my generation is starting to learn. The experiences that we have are the emotions that we create, and it is the reality that we exist in. Things that are outside of us, we learn do not bring us the fulfillment as the things that we change on the inside. No one can give me the comfortable ability of feeling fine in my own skin. No one can do that for me. That's something I have to go out there and get from myself. You know how I had time to do that? Because I wasn't worrying about having the biggest house. You know how I had time to do that? Because I couldn't find a job. So I had to fill my time all day, right? When you get out of college and there's no jobs, you got to think about things. So I started thinking about the job that I wanted. And then I went out and I created that for me. Isn't that amazing? Who would have thought that I wanted to run around with my friends 3 days a week inside the Village Tavern? And then I wanted to do podcasts with them at night after we're all tired, talking about the exchanges that we had, the chemical exchanges that we had with all the human beings we interacted with, how fun it was, and how much money we have, and how we're going to be lucky enough to do it again tomorrow. And hopefully, one of these days, this podcast is going to take off and make us all a lot of money. I don't know. That's the world that I created. That's the experience that I'm having because I'm not worried about all the things that I cannot control. I'm worried about the things that are within my control. I'm worried about the things that I can handle in the present moment right now. I'm worried about making today better for me right now. Could I be working harder now? Maybe. Maybe that's something I should be doing. Maybe I should be picking up the plates a little faster for my man Andrew and his family on Easter. That is something I'm going to have to think about working on. Maybe I should have a better microphone. Maybe I shouldn't spend so much time on vacation around the dark side getting perspective on what could be out there. Imagining what it could be. What do you think it could be? What do you think's on the dark side of the moon? Do you think it's made out of cheese? Do you think it's hollow? What if it is a spaceship? What if it is a satellite? What if this entire civilization was the idea of someone else on another planet a long time far away ago? And they brought you here like cattle. Panspermia. They planted the carbon and the oxygen, and then someone mixed it around in an environment. And they allowed you to grow out of a petri dish and become a human being today like you are running around on this earth. What were you here to be? What were you meant to do? Do you think it was all an accident? Or do you think that there's a reason that you're here? Do you think there's a reason that you're inside your job? Do you think there's a reason that you have these feelings and these emotions and these desires and these wants and these needs for connection, for communication, for interaction, for love, for joy, happiness, sadness, this ride, this emotional roller coaster that we are on as human beings on planet Earth having this experience? It's all magic, guys. It's all a magical world that you are in control of every step of the way. That's all I'm here to tell you. That is the magic of the universe according to Mugsy. You get to create the reality that you exist in because you are a product of the universe that you create. That's how it's all tied together, guys. The millennial generation has the opportunity to be one of the most resilient generations to ever come through these here hallowed halls of Earth at this space-time. What opportunity do you have? Is it the opportunity to build a relationship with your family that you haven't been paying attention to? Is it the opportunity to be a star at your job, be the number one salesman like my girl Kayla? Is it your journey to create a home for people to come in and out of, like my girl Kristen, who's always been the lighthouse inside the Village Tavern restaurant? For so long, that beacon, the people coming back and forth, she is that stable rock on the shores. I don't know what your journey is, but you get to pick and create it. I am just here to enlighten you to the idea that there is more out there. There is an opportunity for you to go and see some things that you could never have imagined are out there. And if you choose to look at all the negative aspects of the world and all the things that are going on out there, I promise you that is the reality that you will exist in. But if you choose to see all of the amazing people and all of the amazing things that are being done out there, I promise that's the experience that you are going to have. Now, why don't you take off to the reality that you want to create for yourself, guys? Take back your consciousness. I love you, and I am out. If you want to find out where else you can listen to this broadcast and you're a human, you can go to MugsyTheCreator.com. If you're a robot, I got nothing for you. I mean, unless you can subscribe over here, or you can click this playlist. If you're a robot, you can do that. That would definitely help. Like, subscribe, whatever you want. Thanks a lot, guys.